Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Global Fleet Conference 2020 for a new session in this exciting conference, and I'm really happy that you can join us today. We would like, of course, to thank all our sponsors for making this conference a success, and also you for being with us already for 4 weeks. Today, we are going to discuss really an important topic in these uncertain times: how to benefit from flexible mobility in the new normal. Welcome to this deep dive webinar that we organize together with the Alliance ALD Wheels. So the topic of today is really going to look forward into one of the things that probably needs to be on your shopping list in terms of your strategy for the near future. I can imagine that many of you are a little bit looking at what can be done in terms of a more flexible approach in our global fleet strategy. Well, indeed, this is what we are going to deep dive in today, and this together with 4 experts. You see them on the screen. So today I have the pleasure that you can meet with Thierry Faure, Head of Sales and Client Relations, International Key Accounts at ALD, Anne-Cécile Huet, ALD Flex Program Manager at ALD, and we have 2 exciting case studies. One from Alexandra Melville, Global Car Fleet and Mobility Category Lead at Accenture. And last but not least, Jarno Pajunen, Global Category Manager at Nokia. And he is also the current International Fleet and Mobility Manager of the Year. And so if there is one that should know how important it is to include flexibility into a program, then it is, of course, Jarno. So I'm really happy that today, together with the support of ALD Wheels, we can meet with those 4 experts. And so let's start. First of all, I think it's really nice that we can a little bit discuss what global fleet customers expect in terms of flexibility and what they need in terms of flexibility for their program. And I would like to ask Thierry Faure of ALD a few questions so that he can shine a light upon the need for flexibility. Thierry, welcome in this webinar.
Good afternoon, Stephen. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning if there are some participants who are based in the US.
Okay, thank you very much. Indeed, we will have participants also across the globe. So it will be nice to see with you what the client needs are in terms of flexibility. And we prepared a few questions for you. The first one is, now that we are in, let's say, a situation with national lockdowns easing, companies are getting back to business, and that's good. What do your corporate clients need most at this point?
Okay, I will tell you, Stephen. Just before that, thank you to you and to Nexus Communication for organizing this deep dive webinar. And I would also like to say thank you to 2 of our clients who are quite advanced when it comes to flexible mobility and mobility solutions to attend this webinar with us. Alex, who has just joined from Accenture, and Jarno from Nokia. So back to your questions, Stephen. You know, we are coming out of a very severe crisis. The sanitary crisis is maybe easing up, but we have to remain prudent, of course. And what's happening is probably the most severe economic crisis since World War II. So as you would expect in such a situation, our clients are looking first and foremost for savings, ways to save cost on their fleet. Some of our clients even looked for some cash support in the recent weeks. So it's been hard times for some companies. Not all industry sectors are impacted in the same way, but we know that some industry sectors are very severely impacted. So number 1, savings. Number 2, I would say simplicity. Solutions to maybe take some resources out from their organization. So things which would make fleet administration simpler for them is also on their radar. The third thing, obviously, is safety. Safety during travel. Some companies are not providing company cars to some of their employees who are using public transportation, but some are considering a mobility mean, which can be a car or something else, to avoid using public transportation due to the sanitary conditions. And as well safety of all the drivers during the operations of replacing their car or getting their car maintained. So safety is number 3. And I would say lighter commitments. Yeah, there is a lot of uncertainty. Some companies may have some restructuring plans, and they don't want to be committed on number of vehicles, on number of miles. So I would say the fourth requirements is more around lighter commitments.
Okay, thank you. That is clear. Then, can you also describe a little bit in what way the current demands for flexibility are different from the ones ALD Automotive has been dealing with before?
Yes, they are a bit different. So some are similar, and I would say are just a bit more extreme, if you want, Stephen, in terms of flexibility on mileage, flexibility on duration. But some are new, like, lease holidays. So meaning, having a contract and being able to opt out at some time and come back into it. Early termination as well, due to this uncertainty on the future and the mileage and the number of vehicles they will need moving forward. We also see requests for clients who are interested in swapping vehicles or changing vehicles more frequently to adapt to the needs of their employees. I would say this one is not new. It has simply expanded to another category of employees where they want to keep them away from public transportation. And we also see requirements around multimodality to make it simpler, beat the traffic as traffic jams are coming back in cities in Western Europe. So that's the type of things which we see on flexible needs. So some existing needs and some new needs as well.
Okay. Still, don't you fear that these flexible solutions will overlap or even compete, let's say, with the traditional full service leasing product that you are suggesting and offering since years to your customers?
I don't see at all a cannibalization or a competition, actually, Stephen. The needs are evolving. I would say there is still a market demand, if you want, for the traditional full service lease product, 36 to 48 months. And this is a very good solution, I would say, for high mileage driver of passenger cars. This is definitely a good solution for commercial fleets, professional drivers. So these needs are very well matched by the traditional full service lease products. But when it comes to urban drivers, and I know that Alex and Jarno will talk about the needs of some of their employees. For these urban drivers who have a mileage requirement which is lower, low to medium mileage needs, they definitely want more flexible solution. They would like to swap vehicles more frequently. They would like to be able to use a car when they need it and use an e-bike when they need it. And they want, I would say, more freedom in terms of mileage, duration. So these needs cannot be covered, if you want, by the good old one car, one driver model. So that's why I don't see competition, Stephen. We have some needs which are well addressed by the traditional full service lease model, and we have new needs which will be better addressed by some of the flexible mobility solutions.
Okay, and a final question for you, Thierry. Do you see a place for these flexible solutions in, let's say, a long-term strategy of a global fleet customer?
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. I see this in the long run. There are some needs which might be just, I would call, post-COVID, because we come out of this crisis, and there are needs which are structural one, which we had already identified prior to the crisis. You know, with the millennials, some people who do not want a benefit car, they don't want to drive in some cities. So we have identified for a product which we call ALD Flex and which Anne-Cécile will present a bit later on. We have worked with some of our clients and we have identified 10 use cases, which are actually much better addressed by a product like ALD Flex and not so well addressed by the traditional one car, one driver, full service lease product over 36 months or 48 months. So yes, I see this staying in the long run. I see this part of our strategy moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Thierry Ford of ALD. If you have a question for Thierry, then please send your question via the chat function of this GoToWebinar tool, because at the end of this webinar, there will be a short Q&A round with all the expert speakers of this webinar. Now, Thierry already mentioned a little bit what the needs are that he is seeing with global customers around flexibility. I think it's good that we can test it with a global customer of ALD, Jarno Pajunen of Nokia. Welcome in this webinar. I think you're on mute, Jarno.
Thank you, Stephen. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are doing safe. So you heard what Thierry was mentioning. So we would like now to see with you if that is right, what he is saying. So we also prepared some questions around flexible solutions for you. First of all, you are the global category manager at Nokia. Can you tell us what type of flexibility you need for mobility?
Yeah, and first of all, thanks for participating in this very interesting discussion. And yeah, in terms of the flexibility, I would say that I'm looking for flexibility in terms of offering and duration. And like I'm echoing Thierry's words there. So basically, what people are looking for is that ideally employees could change their plans on monthly or even daily basis between different services, which can be car, public transportation, bike, and so forth. And basically that is a mobility as a service then.
Okay. How do you see then flexibility playing a role in your global fleet management strategy? Because that strategy is probably on the longer term. Flexibility is something more on demand where you can switch. So how do you see flexibility playing a role in your strategy?
Naturally, it may offer a way to manage short-term needs, which can be substitute cars, project needs, international assignments, but also part of the mobility as a service concept to meet the changing transportation needs of employees. On the other hand, fleet industry is moving towards mobility, as we heard from Thierry, due to the increasing demand of clients and individual car users. And it will be more service-based offering, and flexibility is definitely an integral part of it. And there are employees who constantly travel and need a car, taxi, or public transportation available to them for different periods in different geographical locations. But then, important aspect of flexibility is the environmental impact of it. By utilizing fleet more efficiently, basically reducing the number of cars and standby time of them, and same time increasing the usage of rental cars, taxi services, micromobility, and public transportation, that will reduce the carbon footprint of companies. And we at Nokia, we have set the sustainability targets as an integral part of our fleet strategy. supporting company level targets and measures which are the forefront of the industry.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, then for you and for Nokia, it's not just about efficiency, mobility, it's also about, let's say, doing something for the climate, being sustainable and so on.
Exactly. It has many aspects there. It has the cost saving aspect, it has the environmental aspect, it has also the employee satisfaction aspect there.
Okay. If there was one thing you absolutely had to have in terms of flexibility, what would it be? What is the one thing that you would say, this is something really that I would like to have?
I would say flexibility on duration. Users should be able to swap between different services or car types, even on short notice. That is I would say that what is the main thing what I would like to have there in terms of flexibility.
Okay, we will look afterwards if ALD is able to give you that flexibility on the duration. The final question for you is, how do you see flexibility helping contribute to managing your overall fleet TCO?
Flexibility, or maybe in other words, shorter contracts, it typically leads to increasing car costs in traditional leasing business. But when taking into account the total cost of mobility, including all mobility needs of employees and what companies offer to them, the number of individual cars should reduce. But then when companies find ways to manage flexible solutions and control the budgets, and especially potential hidden costs, it may lead even to decreasing TCO. And at the end, part of the flexibility is also traditional long-term leasing. And we at Nokia see flexibility as an opportunity to offer services for different types of needs. New solutions and services just complement the offering.
Okay, thank you very much. That is it for now. But of course, we would like to meet also with you in the Q&A that we have at the end of this webinar. So to the audience, if you have a question for Jarno or Thierry, then please use the chat function so that we can moderate an engaging discussion also at the end of this webinar. Now, the webinar is supported by ALD Wheels, and there is a reason also for that. It's because this global alliance and ALD in Europe, they have just launched an exciting new product, an exciting new solution that responds to the flexibility needs of you, the global fleet customer. And today, Anne-Cécile Huet of ALD is going to detail what this product, what this solution is about, and how you can take value of this new solution. Anne-Cécile.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Steven. I also want to take the chance to thank Jarno and Alexandra for participating into this webinar. And I want to start off maybe by talking around what Jarno said. His insight was very interesting. What he said really reflects the increasing need for flexibility we hear from our customers over the years. Over the past years, we've been really focusing on developing flexible mobility offering. And like he mentioned and Thierry mentioned, flexibility is many aspects. We've been working towards developing products that combine different mobility solutions, products, and services. We've worked also on allowing flexibility in terms of mileage included in the contracts. And last but not least, we've been working on flexibility in terms of duration. And that's what Jarno was talking about as the main thing and the very important one, especially in the current context where we see that uncertainty is high for a lot of our customers, and considering committing for the long term 36 months, 48 months is not always an easy one. So it was very important to us to look into the best available solution. And in our portfolio, we have this solution available, ALD Flex, in some key markets with an experience of over 5 years. And we really decided to leverage on that experience in those key markets and to try to develop that offering to respond to this increasing needs. So for us, what was really important is the time to market. And luckily, we had this great experience accumulated over the years. And I'm very happy to announce that we launched yesterday ALD Flex in 19 countries, ready to serve all of our customers with ALD Flex. And that's for our corporate customers. That's also for their employees, and down the line for private customers as well. So without further ado, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the offering, and I can see it's shown here on your screen. And actually, in a nutshell, what is ALD Flex? It's a very simple solution where the customer just chooses a vehicle category, and then ALD is fully in charge of selecting the best vehicle within that category. We can totally leverage on our scale and expertise to actually source the best vehicles and secure a good total cost of ownership. We make sure that the car is delivered immediately because we're talking about short-term solutions. So we want the car to be available very quickly to our customers, whether they want to pick it up themselves, whether they prefer for us to send it wherever they need the vehicle, we'll take care of that. Then the contract is starting and we make sure that everything is included. So it's a plug and play solution. You have insurance, full maintenance, road assistance, tire management. So you have it all. You don't have to worry about anything. And then the element of flexibility, which is really key, is that the customer can return the car whenever they want. After a very short minimum period, that's around 1 month, 1 to 3 months in some markets, but mostly after a single month. So that's really the key elements of the offering right there. Now, when we're talking about vehicle categories, I think it's very important to explain the whole concept because, of course, that's also a very key element. We're offering a wide range of categories. Just to give you an example, in France, we have 18 different categories. So we secure covering all types of needs for all types of employees for our large customers. So what the fleet managers get to do is actually to take into consideration their car policy in terms of budget, but also in terms of CO2 emissions. And that's an important point Jarno was stressing out. That's something that's a core part of their mobility strategy. And that's something that can be also a focus in the choice. Same goes with powertrain. So if you want to look into electric vehicles, for example, type of transmission. So different elements that can be chosen to allocate vehicles. And what is free of charge, and that is another element of flexibility, is that we can make upgrades. If a category is no longer available, we'll secure that our customers get a better vehicle even. And then there's another element, which is a swap option for each category. Even if the customer doesn't wish to change category and doesn't have a need for it, we will offer like the possibility to actually change car just to have an additional benefit to the employees. So really with this principle of category, we're securing several things. First of all, we're securing that cars are available right away at any time, that we can offer upgrades, a swap opportunity, and above all, what's really important is that we're removing the complexity of the selection actually. The customers don't have to handle that. We're the experts. We'll secure we're pitching the best vehicle for their needs. So if we're moving on to the next slide now. What is also an element that we hear a lot is make it simple for us also in terms of booking and selecting. So we've developed a booking platform that's very easy, available to our leasing customers where they can actually sign in very quickly and have access for each country to the pool of vehicles that are available in ALD Flex concept. So they get to select with the different criteria I was talking about earlier, and then they can just choose the vehicle they want and they will be contacted to organize the delivery at their preferred address. So it's a very, very smooth process right there. If we move on to the next slide, this is kind of a summary showing you that, again, this is just a ready to deliver offer where it's a like no need to worry type of solution for our customers. Everything is handled for them. And we might move on to the next slide now. So just to wrap a little bit up what it's about. So we're talking about these uncertain times, and that's why flexibility on duration is very important. Now, you can see on this slide actually where we place ALD Flex. So typically the contracts will be from 1 to 24 months. If the clients know that they have a need for a longer period of time, obviously they'll probably go towards traditional full service leasing. Like Thierry was mentioning, that's a core element of the mobility policy. That is something that is there to stay. But on the side, when there is a need for flexibility, then ALD Flex is right there to help our customers. It's the case today in this context that's very uncertain, but it's the case for the long run as well. And we've seen that over the years. Like typically ALD Flex is a very good solution for our customers who are, let's say, launching a new product. So they have a sales rep going throughout the country to do the launch, but they don't know how long exactly it's going to last or how much they're going to need. It's very interesting also for customers that have seasonal activity. Typically customers that are serving like their end customers during Christmas period and they need a lot of vans. For customers that work with projects, and that's pretty much all of our customers. And obviously there's the use case of probation period that is very important. If you don't want to commit for the long run and you don't know if you're going to keep the employee, of course, why commit for the long term just yet? Maybe you should go for a more flexible solution. Another very important use case, I'm not going to talk about all of the use cases Thierry was mentioning because it's a lot of them, but I think this one is very interesting as well because a lot of customers are very interested in like green mobility solutions. But of course, it's a little bit hard in some markets to evaluate if that fits the customer's needs. So it's a good use case for a trial of electric vehicle to see if it's a good fit for the employee, if it's a good fit for the customer before actually committing for the long run. So now if we move on to the next page, this is what I was mentioning, our global launch yesterday, ready to serve in 19 countries that you see here in dark blue. And in light blue, you can see that we even have another 11 countries, entities that are developing the concept right now, and down the line we'll be able to serve our customers in 30 different countries. And I think that was very key to us to be able to serve our international customers and to be present with this flexible offering in the whole world in the current context that is actually across the world. So that's pretty much it for me, just as a general introduction, and I will of course be very happy to take questions in the end, if any.
Very good. Thank you very much, Anne-Cécile. Looks like a promising solution. Of course, it's your customer that needs to be satisfied with what you are offering. So we heard from Jarno Pajunen. Let's now also hear from Alexandra Melville. She is in the lead of fleet and mobility at Accenture. And she already has quite some experience with mobility because a few years ago she was the winner of the International Fleet Mobility Award at Fleet Europe. So Alexandra, welcome in this webinar. I know that.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. I know that mobility, it's really, let's say, close to your heart and to what you are doing also within Accenture. Can you also tell us what type of flexibility do you need when we talk about mobility?
Yes, of course. Indeed, we are very much into mobility, and I think that mobility is flexibility because when we talk about mobility, we're no more talking only about car leasing, but a whole new world. Accenture needs to be flexible. The reason for that is that we are every time trying to hire new people and saying new people every time it's new generation. So we need to be agile, and having flexibility, of course, goes with agility, right? So this is typically what we need. We also need to be agile in terms of sustainability. It is something that is very important for Accenture. We are focusing on this for many years already, so we also need to go there. So opening up to alternative mobilities will also help us on that way.
Okay, thank you. Of course, at Accenture, you need to plan ahead. You have a strategy that is probably covering multiple years. Can you a little bit tell us, how do you see flexibility playing a role in your overall fleet management strategy?
Sure. We have already implemented, as I said, mobility and therefore flexibility in many countries already. So the idea we have is to spread it even further in other countries, but it's also to complete a bit more the offering that we're giving in the different countries, because some countries only have car sharing, some other countries have bike sharing. It's more to give a bigger offering there. So this is where we are going. The aim for Accenture is to make sure that we can have our people going from point A to point B, and to make sure that we only pay for what we use. So this is where I'm coming back to what Anne-Cécile was saying. Flexibility in that way is very important to us.
Okay. Can you tell us if the pandemic situation has perhaps accelerated the need for flexibility, and or do you think that perhaps post-crisis there could be a change in your attitude towards flexibility or not?
We were already, before the pandemic crisis, we were already working from home and sharing our offices and being able to work everywhere we wanted to do. So today the point is more to say, well, how can we, in our mobility strategy, well, stop being mobile? I know I made many people laugh years ago when I was saying that mobility is also non-mobility, but here we are. We went through that crisis, and here we are now into the non-mobility. I think that the post-crisis will require additional flexibility. So today, in some countries, we have people working several days a week from home and other days needing to come to the office, and at the same time needed to respect the opening hours of the offices. Now it's more to say, well, not giving them additional flexibility, and why should they go to the office at 9 o'clock and being in the rush hours, and why not saying, well, I'll start working from home and use whatever mobility mean to go to my meeting. Would that be in the office, at a client site, at a supplier site? And this will also give additional satisfaction to our employees, because we'll push them out of the rush hours.
Okay. What do you exactly expect from your mobility provider? Because they will all talk about mobility, they will highlight some elements around flexibility, but can you, for you and your organization, say what you really expect from your mobility provider?
Sure. Always the best, right? And Thierry knows what that means. He's not always happy with that, because I'm always asking what does not exist. No, to be honest, my request to mobility providers is to give a full offering of multimodal services. And in the ideal world, I would see this mobility provider being able to give the mobility management as they're doing the fleet management. So if we want to do outsourcing of fleet management, that would also be outsourcing of mobility management. So basically coming from what a fleet leasing company is doing today, and to completely transform it with multimodal and bringing as much pay on use as possible. Of course, I need to satisfy my users. We cannot call them drivers anymore, so the users. But I also need to make sure that Accenture as well is satisfied. So going for a pay on use basis for all this multimodal scheme would be really what I'm looking for.
Okay, the final question for you, Alexandra. You mentioned it yourself. you are already quite developed in terms of mobility. How does mobility as a service fit into your need for flexibility?
It's crucial into our transformation. I was saying earlier that we needed to be attractive, right? We need to be sustainable, and we also need to make sure that the offering that we're giving is affordable. And these three pillars are not always, the answer is not always a car. So this is where mobility is coming in play. We do have some clients that are in the cities, and cars is not the answer. We have employees who don't even have a driving license, so the car is not an answer. But then we also have the other example where indeed we do have specific projects that are outside cities, and we need to have people going there for some months, and then we would need a set of cars, electric vehicles then mainly, to bring them there. So here is all the set of flexibility that we would need, and mobility as a service is where we're looking at today.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Alexander. Thank you for being with us, and stay with us because we are going to open the Q&A together with the experts. So to the participants, if you have a question, then please use the chat function in the webinar tool, because we still have some time for some questions. And the first questions have come in. Here we go. A question for ALD. What is the difference between ALD Flex and your short-term rental solution?
Well, actually, in ALD Flex, we're talking about a whole set of services, as you could see. The swap option we're mentioning, the booking platform we're mentioning. We're talking also about having a wide range of vehicles. We're talking about an offering that's actually completely with new flexibility options added to the classic daily rental that can exist in some countries. And here we're really addressing medium-term needs with ALD Flex, and I think that's a key element also of the offering that we were mentioning. I don't know if Thierry wants to add something, but it's a complete complement to our full service leasing, also in terms of reporting, because when you're keeping a car for the medium term, it's something that's really important to show in your whole reporting when you're consolidating your needs. And this is something we're also providing together with this product. So we have a set of services and options, flexible options that are added to the classic daily rental, I would say.
Okay.
I would add, Steven, that we have redesigned the product to fit corporate fleet needs. When I was talking about simplicity, this is it, meaning that we have organized, we do the car policy for the client instead of the client having to do it himself, because we have organized the pool of vehicles, the stock of vehicles in each country in categories which are matching the typical user's needs. We have also organized that everything can be done digitally by the fleet administrator or even by the driver. You know, if a fleet administrator in a country want to give the access to their users, to their drivers, they can do so, and the drivers will be able to select in the category the vehicle he likes, she likes. So basically, the only thing which we need to know from the fleet manager is which category such employee belong to, and then we do the rest. So I think it's quite simple solution for fleet managers.
Okay, there are a few questions. So to Thierry Faure. Thierry, here I go. All things being equal, what is the rental premium one has to pay for flexibility? For example, the monthly rental for a year, a 3-year long-term leasing contract against the monthly rental for the flexible renting, so ALD Flex. Can you give us some kind of insights in the price setting?
I'll give you some insights. Yes, I mean, I could have bet that someone would have liked to talk about money in this webinar. So I'll do my best without going into detailed price comparisons. What I could tell you is that we have positioned ALD Flex, and it's not by accident that it's coming just at the time when the lockdowns are easing. We have positioned it for the very first month as a cost savings opportunity. We have mentioned, maybe it was not obvious to everyone, but we have mentioned that in the mix of vehicles, there are new cars, there are electric vehicles, but there are also used cars. And when I'm talking about used cars, I'm not talking about very old cars. I'm talking about vehicles which are typically 2 to 3 years with a decent mileage, maybe 60, 70,000 kilometers. We are still in very good condition, fully inspected, controlled by ALD. So you would expect that on a Flex used car, because it is a used car, you obtain a rental which is cheaper than what you would have with an FSL, because an FSL is always a new car. If you ask me cheaper by how much, without committing, don't take me wrong here, dear clients, if I cannot deliver on what I'm saying, but count on 10%, maybe a bit more. If you take on the other end of the spectrum, a brand new car on Flex with the benefits of the flexibility, like being able to basically use it for as short or as long as you want and still paying the same price, having more miles or less miles, and having a mileage entitlement, being able to swap this car. So you would understand that all these benefits, which do not exist in an FSL contract for the same car, cannot come for free. So a Flex new car would be more expensive than the same category FSL new car, but a Flex used car, and this is intentional to support our clients rebounding post-COVID crisis, would be cheaper than an FSL new car. I hope I've been clear.
Okay, thank you very much already for wanting to answer the question about the pricing. I can imagine that this is something that needs to be discussed also customer with customer. A question straightforward with ALD Flex. Is there a possibility to opt out of the insurance part and to go, let's say, for self-insurance?
Well, on this one, we're actually talking about a full plug-and-play package. So the insurance is actually included. It's a whole part of the concept, actually.
Okay. Then another question for ALD, talking about new technologies and carbon footprint reduction. Would ALD consider offering this service that also allows the employee for flexibility in terms of, for example, driving an electric vehicle during the week, but in the weekend, when a longer trip is necessary, that he or she can then switch to, let's say, an ICE powertrained vehicle within that formula of ALD Flex?
Yes, Steven. This is not new. What's new is ALD Flex. What you are talking about, what this participant is asking about, is a product which we have simply named ALD Switch. With ALD Switch, you have an electric vehicle which usually will be for daily commute, typically a small electric vehicle to enjoy the city, which obviously will not match your needs for a weekend or when you need to go on holidays, take your family. And in such a period, we are providing a switch entitlement towards a vehicle which might be a plug-in or might just be a combustion engine vehicle, but which has the full range, the full load capacity. And we have two options. You can opt for 30 days of switching per year or 60 days of switching per year. So this exists. We have it in about 10 countries. And I must say, thank you for the question. I'll try not to be too commercial in this webinar, but it's a product which we have launched 3 years ago. Was created in Belgium, Stephen, you will not be surprised. And we had tremendous hopes. And usually when we present it with my team, clients love it, but I would say we do not have that much subscription with it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to shine another light on ALD Switch.
Okay, there are some questions about the fact that within ALD Flex you offer new cars and new powertrains, but also used cars. Can you, as a customer, decide if you would like to have a new car or a used car, or is that just, let's say, made that choice by ALD?
No, you can. The customer actually gets to choose the offering. You can choose between having a recent car or having a used car, and like Thierry was mentioning, of course, the pricing will be different.
Okay. Another question, I don't think that is from a customer, is how do you manage the utilization rate of the cars, and what happens when the cars came back? Are they put back into the pool, let's say, of ALD Flex cars, or is it that you sell those cars on the second-hand market? Can you tell us a little bit, how long does a car, let's say, stay within the ALD Flex package?
Well, it will depend on the car, and of course that's a management decision to make at the optimal time of resale. So actually both options can happen. The car can be put back into the pool and reused for another contract, but when the optimal time of resale has been reached, then the asset will typically be sold.
Okay. Very good. A question for Jarno and Alexandra. Based on what you know from ALD Flex, what do you think could be, let's say, the, how do you say it, the deployment rate? How many vehicles, or for whom within your company do you say this is really a very attractive solution?
You don't have to commit.
Jarno, perhaps to start? Can you tell the people? Yes.
Thanks. Yeah, it is a new service. Happy to see development happening in the industry. It is very early stage to make any estimates on that. But what we have seen that certain flexibility is needed in the company, and especially as mentioned, the younger generation, they are not keen on long commitments. So yep, this will be for sure evaluated, and let's see what is available and how this develops there, and what are the solutions available and how they fit to mobility platforms. So that is then what we are doing there constantly.
Okay, Alexandra, can you shine a light on how you see this ALD Flex within your employee package?
Yes, I think that it will not be into the employee package, but it will be onto project management more, giving flexibility to our employees as being part of their compensation package, plus for the needs of the business and the needs of our clients, we will probably use that for specific projects where people are not in town.
Okay. Very good. A final question. No, indeed, there are two, but they are short questions. The first one is, you launched it in 19 countries. There are 11 other countries on the radar. When will it be rolled out in those 11 countries?
Well, so we have different steps of deployment. So 4 more countries will be ready in 3 months. Then we'll have some more countries ready by the end of the year. And the last countries to deliver will be by mid-2021.
Okay, mid-2021. And then the final question, it was asked several times. Thank you very much. This sounds very interesting. How can I find out more? What does the audience need to do?
Well, it's two things.
It's very simple.
Yeah, go ahead, Thierry.
There is an issue with audio, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
I think many of the participants. Can you hear me?
Well,
yes.
I think.
Can you hear me,
yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Stephen? Can you hear me?
Yes. I think that we can hear Thierry.
Yes, I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so it's quite simple. I think many of the participants will know one of the ALD international key account managers in my team. And they are the ones in charge of explaining how ALD Flex works, how they can get access to it. And if they don't know anyone at ALD, Stephen, you are more than welcome to share my email address.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I would like to thank ALD Wheels for sponsoring this exciting webinar. Thank you very much. Of course, to our expert speakers, Thierry Ford, Anne-Cécile Huet, Alexandra Melville, and Jarno Pajunen. Thank you for being with us. There will be a recorded version of this webinar that will be made available in the event app. So if there is information that you would like to relive, you can, because this webinar was recorded and we will put it in the event app. And then, of course, if you have further questions for our experts for ALD, you can also contact them through our event app. Thank you very much again. You can see that we are not at the end of the Global Fleet Conference. There are still some sessions that we will organize in the upcoming days, and we hope, of course, that you can stay with us for those sessions. I would like to thank you all for an exciting webinar, and should you know more about this conference, then of course you can always take a look at the event app. And then finally, we also offer for every participant of the Global Fleet Conference a unique reduction on our Fleet Europe taxation guide. Also very important, if you would like to turn your fleet strategy in a more, let's say, green strategy, going into more flexibility and mobility, this is really a unique solution for your fleet management. There is now a 25% reduction. Thank you very much, and we hope to meet with you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Stephen. Bye-bye, everyone.